You're like,
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 80th week of the Free Assange Online Vigil. My name is Andrew Smith, and I'm joined by my co hosts Steve Poikonen and Misty Winston. With us today, we do have special guest Emma with multiple different press organizations. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the numbers real quick. We are on day 3,685 of the illegal and arbitrary detention of Julian Assange. It is day 640 since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion IMF loan to the nation of Ecuador. It's 6 days since Vanessa Baritzer made her January 6, 2021 ruling denying Julian Assange bail after ruling no extradition in his case solely based on U.S. prison system conditions as well as mental health concerns. It is day 1,309 of federal incarceration for whistleblower Reality Winner. And the two bright spots that we have, though, we have 304 days of freedom for Chelsea Manning, who does stream frequently on Twitch. And then we have 56 days in a halfway house, not quite freedom, but it's better than the detention center for Jeremy Hammond. But with that, how are you today, Steve?
I am. I believe I'm just about caught up on sleep. From last week. If we haven't made this perfectly clear, I don't sleep in Washington D.C. I nap occasionally. You would think with like the amount of cannabis that I have to put into my body to maintain just to like hang out in that much concentrated evil. Like the amount of balance that it takes to just not scream internally and externally the entire time that I am in such a just sort of swirling void of concentrated evil. That I would sleep more, but no. It's like 3 pounds of coffee, I believe, were purchased in the like 6 days that we were in DC. So aside from being a domestic terrorist now, I suppose I'm all right. Misty, happy birthday, Misty! Misty's
It's
29 today, everybody.
No, I'm not. I'm 39. Let's not lie. Well, I mean, you can say that I look 29. That's not true, but you can tell me that.
You look a day over 32.
But yeah, it's my birthday. So here's what that means. That means that everything I say today is right. Nobody can make fun of me. I have the best ideas, and I'm everybody's favorite host. How's that? Is that okay with everybody?
How's that different than any other day?
You were always my favorite host, Misty, even when you weren't on the show.
Lies.
Well,
Don't try to play like your favorite host isn't Glory Jones. Yeah.
She's she's my co-host on my show, and she's
listen, she's my favorite host too, so I don't blame you. It's okay. I get it.
Big shout out to Glory. Don't let it go to your giant poofy head.
She's going to.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
It's okay though. Yeah, but I'm doing good because it's my birthday.
With us today, we have Emma Sron. I hope I pronounced that right.
You did.
Cool. That's like
Good job, Andrew.
Well, it's only 4 letters, so it's easier. So you're a documentary filmmaker or documentary photojournalist. You joined us in DC. You've worked with Empire Files, Mint Press News, Anti-Media, The Mind Unleashed, We Are Change, and you're also an organizer with the People's Party, and you sit on the chair for Women Against Military Madness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's. I don't think I missed anything there. And co-director for March on the Pentagon. So I would just really like to thank you for joining us because you're someone that joined us in DC for multiple events. You were there for Force the Vote. You were there with the Free Assange crew. So I guess to start it off, could we kind of get your impressions of what happened in court? And is it kind of something that you thought would happen?
I tried not to predict
what was going to happen and get my hopes up with everything that has happened across the board and all different topics last year, and then moving into this year with everything reaching a weird pace right away. I'm trying not to let myself predict things and then end up being completely wrong and getting my hopes down. It was an interesting couple of days with the information that we got. Obviously, the news that Assange wasn't going to be extradited was, it really probably wasn't what I expected to hear. I wasn't up at the same time that you guys were. I did manage to sleep a little bit in DC, but when I woke up and that was like the first thing that I saw on my phone. I was still laying in bed, and I kind of like wanted to wake everybody else up that was in the room with me and like, guys, guess what? Like, we were all just like stunned for a little while. So that was good.
We know how you feel.
Yeah.
We were stunned
We know.
on camera.
Yeah.
We were stunned
then I
in the
cried.
middle of a live stream. We
We
were
like babies.
Yeah.
yeah, and then we broke down and friggin', and like the whole time Andrew's he's still on camera, but he's like off in his own little island,
He just
like
got there.
frantically trying to confirm this.
Well, I think-
Meanwhile, we're like having a cuddle puddle inches away. At one point, he actually like just nonchalantly reaches his hand up and grabs somebody's drink so we could all
So they
like
don't
cry and
spill it.
hug a little bit more. Weird day.
Yeah.
Weird
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
still feel weird.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
I'm not gonna lie, I still feel
It
weird.
really- it's weird. I'm looking at the calendar on my wall right now. The stuff that has happened since then too, like trying to think that really wasn't that long ago. Like we were
I
just in DC. What the heck? But yeah, it was weird because there was that moment of like, I'm reading the first bit of news that I found in my phone when I woke up in the dark hotel, laying in bed, no one else is awake. And I'm like, really? And trying to like figure out, half sleepy, like, where do I also confirm that what I'm reading is correct? And then the emotion of like, getting tears in my eyes and like, okay, but then do I get really happy about this? Because things always happen in this way where there's some good news, something seems like good progress, and then right away there's a second blow that's like, it's not what we thought. So just trying to navigate like, how should I feel about this and where else might I need to look for some information that
Ugh.
might shed different light on what's going on. And
I relate to this so hard because I still feel that way too.
Mhm.
Because I still don't know. Like it was such a roller coaster. Because I, unlike you, I do predict things, and I am very cynical. So I'm always like Debbie Downer, and I was convinced it was going to be like 100% bad news. Like this is going to be awful. Like it was bad. And so I was like in this really bad mood, and then there's like this burst of joy, and then you ride high on that for a little bit, and then she's like, but no bail, and then you drop back down again.
Yep.
And it's really messed up.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah, and then all at the same time, there's this chaos that's happening here, and it just the way that we might have thought about what happened had things not gone the way they did on the 6th. Like we might have better insight or have different predictions, but now with everything that's happening, it's still like I don't know. I don't really know what to think about what happens next and where it could go.
There were a couple of things that as always, sort of tried to drown out the conversation around Julian Assange when the decision in the rendition hearing was being read. And certainly by the morning of the 6th, when bail was denied, like most of the oxygen around his case had already been sucked out of the air. And now we've got to... I think we've got a decent opportunity to bring up Julian Assange at every turn, because they're going to use this narrative that an insurrection and a coup took place. And I was on the ground for that. It wasn't a coup. It wasn't, flat the fuck out. But they're going to put forth a new Patriot Act, the Patriot Act 2.0. It's been talked about for quite a long time now, and we've been given the perfect reason to implement it. And now there are homegrown right-wing domestic terrorists that at any point can rally and organize and invade a Capitol building and take pictures in it and get shot in it and maybe take a laptop or maybe not, because we don't actually know, because we haven't seen anything on a laptop, neither from the predictions over in Q-land or the don't worry, there's nothing to see, even though we're not going to confirm that it actually took place anyway, mainstream sort of talking point. The national security state and the sort of like, I don't know, technocratic panopticon that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are more or less promising to help usher us into, that's an obstacle that we really can't fight without some sort of fully functional WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, and an adversarial, truly committed to exposing these bastards organization or 10. And I am curious as to what you think the next couple of weeks are going to play out like, leading up to this inauguration and this, the possibility of a million militia march and all of this really psyop-y nonsense.
Yeah. Well, so far, I guess, regardless of your perspective of what exactly happened on the 6th and why it happened and who exactly did it, the strategy right now to censor everybody and kick everybody off of all kinds of places on the internet is obviously the wrong one and weird. I mean, I think that there's a lot of us that are pretty intelligent, but I don't think that we're leaps and bounds smarter than the people that are planning these sorts of things in the US government and making these decisions, that they have to know that when you censor people, especially a president of a country, you're going to give that person more attention. You're going to make the supporters more angry. Like Trump was the like most popular person, or I forgot what he was voted as, but he took over Obama as like the most
respected,
most respected, yes,
most admired or something like
admired.
that.
I think it was admired. Yeah,
it's crazy that Obama won it for so long.
Yes, I know.
War criminal, so
it's
here we are.
Trump overtook him of all people. Like,
right,
you overtook Obama, but yeah, but obviously that means that there are more people that are fans of Trump than I guess Obama at this moment or whatever, but that there's a lot of people that there's discrepancies about it, but a lot of people voted for him. He's admired, all of these things, and so to censor him from the entire internet, you're making people, his supporters, these many people, more angry.
You're proving him right.
Yes,
you're proving him right.
Everything right that he has said about the media. Right. Yes.
It's
exactly.
so embarrassingly stupid. I mean, it's
it's
like genuinely intelligent human beings are unable to grasp what's happening with this.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, I say this all the time. How many times does your government get to lie to you before your sense of skepticism kicks in? I'm just wondering what it takes. Like, for me, people call me like a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, your default position should be that everything that they say is absolute bullshit, and start from there. Like, you should. I don't ever buy into anything that they're. None of them across the board. And there are these people who have like their little favorite celebritition, and everything they say is good and true and right and accurate, and everything everybody else says is garbage. And no, I just think they're all lying. And that should be like your default position. They are all lying. It's nuts.
Definitely. And that's why you can't take at face value that Twitter is suddenly censoring the president when we've had people for years on Twitter, including Trump, who has said crazy things in the past, but that we have other people, Democrats, whatever, that have called for all kinds of horrible things, that there are war criminals that use Twitter and social media to do things. So you can't take at face value that suddenly it's just the right time to censor certain people and censor certain thought. They have to know the effects of doing something like that. The Streisand effect, all these things. They have to know, like, we can't be the only ones that know that happens. You have to be skeptical of it.
I think it's a move to try to escalate the violence, because
of course it is. Like, if they want us fighting ourselves, like,
yeah, if you take on face value what Trump said, he's literally like, yeah, I'm not going to go. People should just stay the fuck home. Like, get the fuck out of the Capitol. Like, I know they cheated. You know they cheated. Teach your kids some shit. And then suddenly they're like, oh, we're taking them off the internet. And I'm
okay, so I don't know how accurate it is, but I've seen multiple people that I, have a relative amount of trust in post that, like, there's the 2 tweets that Twitter banned him for, and it's nothing. But like, they're saying that he was inciting violence with it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
the one where he tells them to calm down and go home.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, inciting violence.
Mike Pompeo today was inciting violence against how many countries? I don't know, probably at least 3 or 4 in one day. I mean, he does it, on a regular basis. I would say at least 3 or 4 days a week. He's inciting violence with somebody on Twitter. Why doesn't he get taken down? Why didn't Trump get taken down for inciting violence the other hundreds of times that he did against other countries? It's the American exceptionalism. Oh, well, somebody, came into the Capitol and made some noise and it got a little rowdy, and so this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of this country, and we need to enact
democracy died on Wednesday the 6th.
Okay, can we rant about democracy? Fuck you. Anybody saying that there was a threat to our democracy? We don't fucking have a democracy. Stop saying that. It's so fucking annoying. Oh my God, we haven't had democracy in ages. Can we stop with that delusion? Please. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm not kidding. It's my birthday. I can rant if I want to.
But if we don't maintain that delusion, Misty, then we can't enforce Patriot Act 2.0.
I know. People have to be terrified.
Successfully locked down every 50 state, all 50 states for Joe Biden's first 100 days, like he promised, whether or not there was an actual virus. But according to Joe Biden, we'll lock it down for 100 days, no matter what. And what what do you think is going to happen in that 3 months, man? Right. That takes us like right into April.
So if we see what happened out of the UK court, right? Because we were streaming live while the police were literally chasing people around because they wanted to know what was happening in a big ass court case. We're going to see that on steroids. We're going to see that for people that just want to go and walk their dog, right? The idea of protesting literally evaporates the moment you're like, well, we got to walk it.
Well, that's what this is.
We have it on camera. Like, that's what they're doing. That's coming here. They're not going to be able to protest at all. They're going to tell you can't protest at all. I don't know why people think that that's a controversial thing to say. That's coming. That is coming. Right? Like,
all you're going to need at your event is 2 plants in MAGA hats, and all of a sudden, your rally is now a domestic terror rally, and everyone involved in organizing it can get swept up.
We funded our trip to DC on GoFundMe. GoFundMe announced today that they will no longer allow people to fundraise on their website for any event that might potentially get violent. Well, every event could potentially get violent. What the fuck does that mean? So now we're not going to be able to use GoFundMe to fund direct action on the ground in Washington, D.C. for Julian Assange.
Action for Assange is officially a Christian charity now. We
or
are.
Human rights. That'll probably get you in trouble. I mean, people act like this is
just my taxes.
I'm fine with the Lord. We're good.
Okay.
I hope. I don't know. I really don't. I don't keep track.
Yeah, but this is coming. It's here. It's here.
This
the
is
things
the
we've
shit
been trying to tell you about for 10 years. It's here.
When Jason Burmis and Whitney Webb and I sat on camera on election day and predicted the future, this is the future we predicted, like damn near to the letter, and nobody's happy about that. No, nobody's proud or like bragging or any of that shit. It's just when you look at everything that's been coming out of Department of Homeland Security for almost the last year, where they're telling you there's going to be a 9/11 scope and scale type of event that we know is coming, but we can't stop and we can't do anything to avoid it, and it's going to be right-wing extremists, and they're going to have a couple of preliminary, what I can't remember their exact phraseology. They're going to announce their presence, and then they're going to take out the grid. And they're already telling you ahead of the inauguration, like, oh, expect significant damage to, the power grid and substations. Really? Because there are substations and the power companies right next door to the Capitol building? Like, what are you guys going to be up to? It's a disconcerting period of time because so many people are running around believing that they need to clamp down on free assembly. They need to clamp down on speech. They need to clamp down on the internet entirely just to make things safe again. From what and for whom? Because my entire life, it's been a pretty fucking unsafe place to live for a ridiculous amount of people.
It's only gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make anybody safer. Censoring people doesn't make anybody safer. It enrages people. People do not like to be silenced. And yes, there are bad ideas. I get it, you guys. 100%. I get it. Like, I hate Nazis. Whatever you want to hear from other people. I hate Nazis, like literal Nazis. I hate, I don't hate racists. I feel bad for them. They're really ignorant. I guess, I don't know. But like, do you know what I'm saying? It's this entire disconnect from where we actually find ourselves, I think. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
So something interesting that Whitney Webb laid out on Graham Elwood's show today, which I know she's talked about a whole bunch before. She probably talked about it with Steve too. That there was a massive data breach in the Department of Homeland Security. I can't remember the name of the company, so I'm not going to guess.
SolarWinds.
I know. I was thinking like Wind Farm or some shit. SolarWinds. And they basically had access to everything. And like literally like every military communication, every Department of Justice communication, right? And she said the laptop story is interesting because what gets to happen then, anything that SolarWinds may produce or may come out of that, which that company in and of itself isn't even a good company. It has ties to like fucking all the like Russiagate intelligence agencies and subcontractors. But if there is someone who is planning on releasing all of that information, are they just going to blame it on the right-wing laptop story? They're going to be like, oh, well, this is insurrectionist material to try to attack the state and shit like that, right? And the other question I have is, do those people that stole that laptop, right, do they understand that the U.S. just argued in court that they don't have the right to publish classified information regardless of who does it, right? So those right-wingers that just storm the Capitol in insurrection don't even know that they're violating a whole nother set of laws and are going to be guilty of the Espionage Act if that information even gets published from one of their media sources because they haven't spent the last 2 years defending press freedom. That's the other angle to it, too, is these people have literally laid their own fucking bed to die in by not standing up and saying we have the right to publish these things.
Yes. And everybody, it's like it's a really weird experience to watch people participate in their own demise. Like they're actively participating in their own downfall and like cheering it along. And everybody, like conservatives have been doing it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like progressives have been doing it. Everybody is focused on the dumbest shit and arguing with the wrong people, and nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, and it's crazy to watch, and they're all just getting fucked over. It's crazy that people don't see it. To me, I don't know.
It's so weird that some of us are able to see it. That's just so strange, whatever it is that happened. I don't know why some of us are able to see through it. I'm really glad that we're able to find each other, because you feel a lot more like sane when you're able to talk with other people that get this. And it's incredibly discouraging and frustrating especially right now with how things have ramped up, to see everybody falling for it and becoming even more divided. We were already absurdly divided, and now even every little subdivision of the groups are divided further. It's absurd what's happened, but it's also totally understandable because we know who's doing it and kind of why they're doing it and how well the propaganda works, and that psyops are actually things, and and that it all that exists because it works and it's successful and it's worked for years. And some of us see through some of it better than others, but I get mad and I get frustrated at all these people who are just falling for it, but I also understand that they've just fallen victim to all of this. It's hard to see outside of it. Once you do, then everything looks clearer, like the they live glasses thing. Like you suddenly see everything, but like until that happens, and some people can't handle it either. It's like a sort of a self-preservation.
It is a lot. We've talked about this. It's a lot.
And it's a constant thing too, because like you could have been part of the loose change generation, right? That woke up screaming into Walmart megaphones, 9/11 is an inside job, right? Like we were all there. I'm assuming most people on this stream, but we all have friends that were there with us that are now like, COVID's the worst thing in the world. We're all going to fucking die. And you're like, hey man, like, do you remember what happened then? Like give me like 30% of the skepticism that you have about 9/11, about COVID, and then we can have a conversation about this insurrection because our fucking privacy's gone.
So I think that a lot of times when you have someone that reverts, that tries to unring the bell, it's because they have something like that they feel like they have to protect, something of value they have to protect now, whether it's a home or whether it's a family or whatever. And they think that by putting their faith into an institution that they already know to be false, that if they believe hard enough, or if they don't pay attention at all and they just try to like make it home at the end of the day and play a little freaky catch or whatever, then that's enough. And I have a lot of empathy for that. I tell people on Slow News Day all the time, like, everybody's on a path. Nobody's on the same part of their path that you are. You can't like outright fucking hate somebody because they haven't figured it out yet. But when you're trying to unring the bell, it's a little bit different. And you should, like, I have a really hard time not verbally or physically shaking some of my friends right now, because they do know better and they know exactly what's coming because they watched it all happen with 9/11 and the Patriot Act. They watched it all happen with the continued decimation of rights and the ramping up of not just propaganda, but propaganda on a level that we've never seen before, that saturated every single avenue of society. And it's gross, so gross. And it doesn't surprise me at all. And I can't wait to talk to Whitney about it more, because she'll be on Thursday morning. But the co-opting of left media, and the intentional co-opting of left media, it's something that I've been ranting. It's why I have a show in the first place, is because there was such a wide fucking lane on the left for people who weren't repeating CIA talking points. I don't even know if I'm on the left, like on that little like XY company, like I'm all the way, like I'm out of the thing,
the bottom left
the
corner,
lowest possible left-hand corner, with a stack of Kalashnikovs and a couple of middle fingers and a barrel of whiskey and a fucking bag of mushrooms, and like, that's fucking it. There's nobody else there, So I don't know where that. I don't fucking Misty. Okay,
hi,
yeah,
neighbor.
but you're me with lady bits.
I know, but hi, neighbor.
Yeah, I've been fucking like, we've established this, but it's so freaking like it's hard for me to take my own advice. Feel a little bit like Alex.
I know,
right? I give very good advice, but seldom often follow it. That kind of thing. Right, like that's where I am with this because I really do just want to shake a motherfucker, you know, like.
I go off on people. No, I think we're all aware of that. Like,
I got
go
a
off on
fucking phone call the other night from a very good friend of mine that was like, okay, the Insurrection Act is going to be signed at midnight and Michael Flynn's going to be the vice president and mass arrests and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, they fucking got you, bro.
It's
dude, you know, oh.
It's ridiculous. I'm so tired.
And this dude, he was a freaking, like, Bernie Sanders 2016 staffer.
So many of them.
Bro,
Well,
that, like, I mean, the just oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that like the last year, everything that they've thrown at us has put people in the ideal position to just fall for things easier than they did before.
well,
You
they've
know
slow
what?
walked it. They've slow
Yeah.
walked it. We've talked about this. Well, I mean, I have. I don't know. This has been going on for a long time, but over the past like 10 years, it has been ramped up exponentially. Just go back and look. Like, this is a homework assignment. Maybe we should do like a video of this. Like, I'll do the research and we can like go through it because it's important. Go back and look at all of just the First Amendment. Just that one right. Go back and look and see all of the attacks over the past 10 years. And they didn't come at you in chunks, homie. They came at you with like a little chisel, tapping away at it, little bit by little bit by little bit. And that's what they've been doing for 10 or 15 years. And nobody's paying attention. You're the frog in the fucking pot. They've been doing this for 15 years right under your nose in broad daylight, and you're sleeping on it. And that's not good. You are getting ready to lose your First Amendment rights, period. End of story. That's coming. Like, that's not hyperbolic, overly dramatic nonsense. Like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's happening right now. Pay attention. It's, you know, this is, I don't understand why people don't get it. It's right in front of them. It's so frustrating.
At the same time, like over the last 10 years or so, when we compare the situation that people were in, just life situations, and when 9/11 happened compared to now, and the span of time between then and now, the cost of living has gone up dramatically, but wages haven't. We've had all these housing crashes. We've had so much stuff happen that has put people in panic mode. Like, we've been existing in like, I'm living on the edge of my life falling off the cliff into disaster. So many people have been in that point for a while now that they like literally cannot pay attention to anything else that's going on because they have to work all these jobs to make life work. They have to have a certain job to have their health care. It's like they have set it up so that people are.
Well, that's another thing that they've slow walked.
Along. Yeah.
That's another thing that, like, wages have just stayed stagnant, and they've just waited and waited and waited and waited, tired you out, and now you have to have 2 jobs.
Yep.
And maybe you have to have 3 jobs, and that's something else that they've been walking. They know what they're doing. Like, people say that it's conspiratorial to think that it's like a group of dudes that sit around. What the fuck do you think a board meeting is for any of these companies? That's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're figuring out ways to manipulate you so that they can, you know, consolidate power and take over all the resources and make sure that you and your family starve to death. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're psychopaths. Of course, every board meeting of Boeing or any of those places, that is exactly what they're doing. It is a bunch of like comic book villains in a room planning your demise for you. That's real talk.
And
that's just it.
Anything that happens, anything that comes up that might have been like a tiny thing, something, you know, when the COVID thing first started, there's a lot of different opinions and discussions on like, is it even real, or is it horrible? Is it not? But like, at that point, I was ready to say like, this can be a real thing, and maybe it's going to be terrible, maybe it's not. But I know that regardless of what like this virus is, it's going to be exploited like insanely by the ruling class to do whatever they want with it, to take away more rights, to profit like obscenely. That
disaster
like,
capitalism.
Yes,
it's a real thing. They never let a good crisis go to waste.
Never. Yeah.
I mean, That's real talk. I mean, that's look at what they do after natural disasters. They go in and they, one of these islands, it gets clobbered by a hurricane or whatever. They'll go in after it's all over and they buy all the land and they put in these fancy resorts. And they take over the entire island and they, screw over the locals. And it's not a secret. That's what they do. That's who they are. Pretending otherwise is like detrimental to your health. You have to be honest with yourself about what you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with. These people are not good people on any level, on any level. Like they might think they are. Maybe some of them have convinced themselves that they're actually doing good. They're not. And they're lying to themselves.
Well, they exist in a completely different reality than we do. So it's probably easy to lie to themselves because they're not in the real world. They're not with real people. They don't see what real people experience. They're not confronted with that daily. So they can.
But Kamala Harris wears Chucks.
Yeah.
Like
oh, you're right.
Chucks and Tim's.
Oh, right, dude. She is totes just like us. Like plain Jane, everyday homegirl. Like, let's go. I could go to lunch with her. I bet we have tons in common.
Right.
Fuck that bench. Ugh. No.
Right. Have a little Chardonnay, destabilize the South American country.
Yeah.
Exploit prison labor. Girl stuff. You can get that shit done.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We can laugh at all the pores while we eat our Caesar salads and drink our Chardonnay Blanc. It'll be fun. Right. She's totally just like me. 100%.
So, as far as I know, and this is just pivoting back to the case here, the U.S. has not filed an appeal yet. At least there has not been an announcement of it. I could be wrong, but I have not seen anything come through on any official channels stating that it has or that they're not. I believe they have until the 19th, if I remember properly, to file their appeal. So literally the day before inauguration,
wow,
the U.S. has to file their appeal to maintain the extradition case. What
do you think about that, guys? You think that's intentional? What do you think? Let's speculate a little here, shall we?
That's really interesting. That's
right?
The day before.
I think it's intentional. I think that because shit has been very intentional. Come on. She basically read the prosecution's argument as her decision and then threw in a whole, oh yeah, but he might kill himself, so no extradition. Like that was a script, like we knew it was coming, but that was like the prosecution's argument. Like that's what she read. All of this stuff has been like, it's felt really intentional and specific and direct. You know what I mean? Like nothing seems to be at chance here, really. I mean, that's the impression that I've gotten this whole time. Like everything seems very calculated at this point.
Definitely. And if the intention really was because he was at risk of suicide, he wouldn't be in Belmar.
In jail?
Right, like that's so obviously that's not just what was going on because that makes
Can you imagine having the nerve to say, hey, this guy's in a really precarious place mentally, and the reason he's in this really precarious place mentally is that for the past decade my country has been illegally detaining him and psychologically torturing him, and I have had him in a supermax prison basically in solitary confinement for the last couple years. And that has rendered him like just a complete mess. Psychological torture will do that to you, but I'm gonna go ahead and just keep him in jail for a little while longer.
After having the balls to write a line that says, I order the release of Julian Paul Assange.
Are you kidding me? It's a joke.
Like
it's
the defense in their own appeal for bail cited the judge's order for his release, and it was denied.
Yeah. What the fuck is that? Like, this is, I mean, come on. And the fact that there's so much of this, and come on. It's not a coincidence anymore. It just can't.
For our late night friends in the UK right now, and let me reiterate this, and I'll be saying this every time that I go on camera from now until Julian Assange is free. Fucking go and live in front of Belmarsh. Like I'll find a way to help crowdfund up.
Let's
some
crowdfund that
blankets
shit.
or
I'll
some
throw in.
whatever, dude. Like
I
if
will
I was
crowdfund that.
allowed out of the country right now, I would. I'm in a dispute with the State
Absolutely.
Department. They're holding my passport. I would do it. I would. I'd give up my entire fucking existence right now to go camp out in front of Belmarsh Prison. I would. And there needs to be tens of thousands of people doing that right the fuck now, because Julian Assange is not being charged with anything.
And he's still
And
in
is
the Supermax.
In the Guantanamo Bay of the United Kingdom
In solitary
without
confinement.
charges, being tortured until we don't fucking know when.
Because the judge wanted
the U.S. lost the extradition case. They are going to drag this appeal out
They want
for
him
as
to
long
die.
as humanly possible, while fucking trying to biologically murder Julian Assange by sticking everyone who has COVID onto his wing in Belmarsh. The man has a chronic lung condition. He could die
Thanks
from
to them.
it. He's
Thanks to
one
them.
of the like few people that are actually susceptible to catching their fucking death by getting something else. Like, that's no fucking bullshit whatsoever. This is insane. And
It's
why
murder
there
in slow
aren't
motion.
people. I know it's winter, dude. I know the weather sucks. I know it's fucking bad. We'll find a way to like help make sure you guys are warm.
If the restaurants in DC can
dry.
find a way to set up outdoors in 27-degree weather with their little large ass portable fires.
Fuck
I
yeah,
think-
we can get one of those. Yeah.
I keep going up to the Line 3 pipeline fight in Minnesota, the resistance camps, and all those people. I mean, I've gone up there a couple times. I slept in my car when it was 0 degrees outside. It's still cold in the car when it's 0 degrees.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
people
it
in all
is.
kinds of tents and yurts and
The
there,
trick
it's cold.
outside
They're okay.
is you basically build a plastic cocoon, like a
Mhm.
little
Yeah.
plastic cocoon around yourself, and then you keep yourself nice and toasty. And if you're in a sleeping bag, then you don't get wet from all your perspiration and condensation from your breath.
If you're in a car, make sure to unroll your window, or else your breath will freeze. People like wake up with a sheet of ice on you if you don't.
Yeah. That's not good.
No.
That's not good at all.
No. But all of that to say, you can camp outside of Belmarsh.
I mean, I know
there.
what I'm seeing is that in the chat is, oh, but there's a lockdown and you'll get a fine. You have
Well,
to
that's
have
on for your
fucking
fine.
more people than they can arrest and fine.
Yeah.
Like
but I
that,
mean, listen,
I don't know.
Mhm. I mean, that's what, like, okay, so I live in Minnesota. So the George Floyd stuff started here. Everybody here was in like lockdown mode until that happened. And then as soon as it happened, thousands of people went out of their houses into the streets and was like, we had been in this mindset that like, we can't break the rules. We can't go outside. We will die and these things. And this crazy thing happened that brought everybody outside. And then we looked around and we looked at each other and we're like, oh, we can be outside. Oh, there's lots of us outside, so they can't tell all of us to go back inside. You know, when you have like people power for something and the thing is meaningful enough, like the community here was tired of the police killing people because it keeps happening. And that was enough. Like people were motivated enough to go outside and to risk whatever it might be. If it's a fine, if it's going to jail, if it's getting really sick, whatever, we have to compare the risk to the thing.
The thing that broke my heart is 2 weeks after the George Floyd protests, right? No one was like, oh, maybe COVID's not a thing. Like, we just had 40,000 people crammed into a tiny bridge. Like, I'm alive. Are you alive? Like, let's amp this shit up.
Mhm.
Because that's when you saw more lockdowns start happening. It was
well, I mean, there's a
it was
lot
in
of really
July
scary
after
stuff
like,
being
the third
said.
wave of protests that the state of Ohio rolled out mask mandates. Middle of July, like we had been pandemicked like for 4 months. And then they're like, oh, well now, we totally just learned you should have been wearing masks the whole time. And all it does is it sells that idea or puts that fear right on someone's face.
Mhm.
And it makes you more scared of the person
Mhm.
walking into the store than the intelligence community that's viciously attacking every portion of our society.
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
Definitely.
I think they always do that stuff. I mean, that's how they. I mean, this isn't like a new thing. They control people through fear. They always have.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they do. And so, even if COVID is a threat or whatever, if it is, you can bet whatever fear mongering they're selling you, it's come on, it's
The
not.
shit they're
It's not
trying to
bad.
do is way scarier. Like,
Yes.
people should be afraid of the fact that 22% of all money was printed in 2020.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and
All money.
You can think COVID is like a real thing and also be unbelievably concerned about the things that are happening right now, the things they're passing, the laws they're stripping, the tax breaks they're giving. Like, you can do both. You can multitask your brain a little bit. It's okay to
If
hold
you're
both.
ready to reorganize society over a virus, why aren't you ready to reorganize society because it's currently being ran by fucking sociopathic
Psychopaths.
pedophiles?
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, priorities,
Why?
people.
Why?
Well,
Like, no,
because
I mean, I really want to fucking answer to that question now. I really fucking do. Like, this is not, I don't write this shit down. I don't show up with this in my fucking pocket. Seriously, somebody explain that to me. If you're ready to reorganize society over a virus that kills 0.6% of the people that catch it, why are you ready to reorganize society? Because it's being ran by satanic fucking sociopathic pedophiles. Like, why are you looking to the sociopaths to go, yes, let's reorganize society your way, because clearly it's been working out for us so far. What else can we give you?
Mhm.
Access to our thoughts? Can I just plug right into that?
Yeah.
I can. Okay, would you like my kids too?
Mhm.
Like, I would love
Yeah.
to fucking answer
You
that.
should ask some people that question on Twitter. See if you can get an answer.
Mayhaps I shall, Misty.
I wonder how many times you'll get called a Nazi
Yeah.
or a fascist.
Come
We
at
should
me.
count. Let's bet. Let's
Come
bet.
at me.
No,
Look at
let's
this
just
shirt.
listen,
What a
no.
fucking
Listen, you should do it though, and let's bet for real. Like, I just want to see. Like, we should see how many times people call you a Nazi. It'll be fun for
Okay.
me. Let's make this
Okay.
entertaining.
You should put
Is there like
poll
a
up.
door prize or a betting pool? Can we like throw 50
No,
bucks at somebody's favorite
sure, we
charity if
can.
you're right with
We can.
the
I just like
number?
bragging rights, but okay.
Okay. All right. Fair
I'm just
enough.
competitive, so I like bragging rights. I'm
Fair
good
enough.
with that. But yeah, we can throw money in too. I like money. Money's good too. I'm in.
I would also like to mention that I have a lot of love for Minnesota. It's one of my favorite places in the country.
I
All right
enjoy it
then.
here.
Some wonderful
It's
people.
cold, right? I'm not a fan of the cold, y'all.
I used to do Renaissance festivals like for a living.
Oh,
Yeah.
So many Rennies are from Minnesota,
Mhm.
like, because it sucks in the winter there. And they're like, we could be anywhere and we get to be in Arizona or Florida in February. In fact, at the Arizona Renaissance Festival, it may still happen to this day. When I was doing this like 20 some years ago, there would be right after the first weekend, there would be a party on Monday morning, and it was, thank God we're not in Minnesota. That was the theme of the party. So we would have Bloody Marys with beer chasers, and we would have Cheater Swedish meatballs, little hot dish. Somebody would call a relative and would, strike up a conversation. Weather. No, 14 below. Oh, yeah. I'm in a t-shirt, I got shorts on. Like, it was great. It was. Thank God we're not in Minnesota. No, we'll talk to you soon. Yeah, and lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about the Renaissance Festival folks really struggling right now because so many of them were canceled.
sure.
And that's what
Brutal.
they wait
yeah.
for that. That's what everything is, and
Yeah.
life is. and
Also, amusement park
Mhm.
ride people, whatever those
Mhm.
are called. What the fuck are they? I don't know what they're called,
Yeah.
but they people who own
Operators.
amusement parks.
I
Yeah,
think
whatever.
all this
Whatever.
means we just need to organize illegal parties. Like, we need to invite the carnies and the Renaissance folk and like all the Comic-Con kids that aren't allowed to go, and just get them all in one place and feed them deep fried fair food. We could smoke cigarettes and ride the merry-go-round, and we can put the world back in order. Like, I think that's the plan.
I'm into it. I could do with a party right now, actually.
But I did actually want to ask you, could you talk a little bit about that pipeline fight? Because that's something that, that's where I started my activism, was fighting pipelines as a Ohio version of a mini Wachoni kid.
Okay.
So if you could talk about that, I think that would be really cool.
Cool. Well, so we're not like super far from where everything happened with Standing Rock. So I think there's some precedent here for people to get a little bit more involved and pay attention to this kind of stuff, especially when it's happening closer to home, which Line 3 is. Line 3 is a replacement line. There's an existing Line 3 right now, and it goes from like the top corner of Minnesota, comes in from Canada with the tar sands oil. So it's the worst of the worst. Disgusting stuff, destroying large swaths of Canada, making it toxic, ugly. You can find them on satellite maps. If you just like look at Canada and go around, you can like see something that looks a little funny and zoom in on it, and it ends up being a giant, disgusting tar sand field. They're that big and that absurd that you can see it like a blemish on Canada. So it comes in at the top of the state and goes across. It goes across the Mississippi River. It goes across tons of water where a lot of indigenous communities do wild rice harvesting. So there's a lot threatened by this. But the original line was like a diagonal from the corner over to Lake Superior. So it goes to the shore of Lake Superior, which is another big body of water. But this replacement line comes along and then it turns and goes this way. So it's like this whole part is not a replacement because this is the way it went, and now it comes at a right angle. So it's a brand new thing that they're putting in. So they keep advertising it as a replacement line, but it's a whole new pipeline a whole new route that they're knocking down trees, digging holes, doing all kinds of things. So there's a couple of different like little resistance things that have popped up, but the main one that I've been going to is by Palisade, Minnesota. There is some property there with a house on it that the water protectors are staying at, and you can camp on the land, and it's literally right next to the pipeline route. And it's right where the pipeline is supposed to cross the Mississippi River. So it's a really good place for people to go get involved that are ready to like literally put their bodies on the line. You can see the pipeline route. You can get up to the machinery and touch it and block it if that's what the action is going to be. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. I think there's actually like 11,000 something. But I learned that actually at the airport on the way to DC. It was the Caribou Coffee question to get 10 cents off your order. It was like, how many lakes does Minnesota actually have? And a flight attendant in front of me knew. And then she said it really loud, so everybody else in line like heard her, so they could answer to get the.
Nice, she's a comrade. I like it.
She's like, oh, sorry. So Minnesotans like tons of people have lake houses. They like to go to the cabin for the weekend. They like to go fishing. They like to live on the lake. But then we've got these pipelines coming in from Canada with the worst oil ever, crossing how many lakes and rivers and things, threatening our water. And the Mississippi River goes straight through the Twin Cities. It goes right in between Minneapolis and St. Paul. And these are things that people should be paying attention to and should be aware of. If that pipeline up at Palisade that goes under the river ends up leaking, that's going to flow right down here and have an impact on lots of things.
And that's going to happen. There's going to be leaks. There's going to, that's going to, it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's just when that will happen. There will be leaks. There are leaks right now. There are leaks they don't even tell you about.
Yes.
So yeah, that's not good. It's definitely not good.
Pipelines leak. And we're in a time when we have all of these alternative energy options and when the demand for oil is actually going down. Like, we don't need to be getting tar sands oil. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It's not necessary. Like, this is not a good investment. The majority of the people that are working on the pipeline are coming in from other states, and they work temporarily to just put the pipeline in. And then once the pipeline is functional, it's like there's like maybe 20 more people in Minnesota that get a job. It's not like this is like a jobs thing. Like even that argument.
They sell it that way, though. In
Yeah.
Ohio, they sell it that way.
Yep.
I mean, all the time they're like, "Oh, this is going to create jobs." No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Like it does not. It absolutely does not. It's not a job creator. It's not. Nobody really benefits from that except for the oil companies. Like, that's it. That's it. And the politicians that they own.
Yes.
They benefit too.
Yes, because like at the very same time that this stuff is getting like pushed through and approved, we've got our governor Tim Walz like created some climate committee, like within days of being like the Enbridge pipeline can go forward and they're starting construction. He was like, I made this committee, and I screenshotted these things, and it was like, yeah, it was like a task force, and like what are you talking about when you're saying this one thing? Yes.
They buy it. And they're like, oh, but there was a task force and we got to have, we had a seat at the table. Fuck your task force. You didn't get shit.
Yep.
You got nothing. It's smoke and mirrors. Like it's a performance. It's the shiny thing they throw at you so that they can go over here and do what they want. And people fall for that every time in every situation. It never fails. It's amazing to watch.
And I honestly feel like something weird happened with this focus on the climate instead of the environment that happened like kind of around the time that things happened with Standing Rock, that like everyone is focused on the climate now and less focused on the ways that we can help the environment in front of us.
Because the exact same people who have been destroying the planet all got together and they started all of these little NGOs and little think tanks, and now they would like to hijack what's left of the environment and ransom bits of it back to us. And all of these fucks have names, but one of my favorites is Mark Benioff, who is the CEO of Salesforce, who is also in charge of Glory. And I'm probably going to get this wrong, but you can correct me because you love that.
She said yes, yeah.
But he has
she said don't.
An oversight agency for deep sea mining. And also the largest number of mining contracts for deep sea mining. He also recently bought Time Magazine, which is why Klaus Schwab was on the cover of Time Magazine and why the Great Reset was on the cover of Time Magazine, because all of this is a World Economic Forum sort of business plan for the future, which turns us into, slaves and them into like the ruling class, all in the name of or largely in the name of saving the climate, largely in the name of preserving the planet. The work of Cory Morningstar and everything that wrong kind of green does, just phenomenal, and I can't recommend it enough. And if you guys are watching right now, if you're in the chat right now, you're not familiar with Cory Morningstar, I got to interview her a month and a half ago or something. It was fantastic. It was about her incredibly detailed series around the social dilemma, and what that just shit show of a documentary was really about, as well as the digital recolonization of the global South, which is horrific and frightening, and something that like people need to remember and pay attention to and understand that like that's part of United States government policy now, and that there's no separation between these tech giants and the government, which is why when one of those tech giants platforms and silences someone as abhorrent as Donald Trump, you should go, No, because you know it's always going to roll back harder on the left.
Just
You
look at
know
the
it.
Atlantic Council. Go.
Did
look
you
at
see how
their
I brought that all
board
back
meeting.
home, though?
That was good. That was good, actually.
That was really good. That was really good.
Go take a look at the Atlantic Council's website. Take a look at their list of board members, and do some research into who those people are. You'll notice one right off the bat, just as you're scrolling. It would be Henry Kissinger. And if you want Henry Kissinger deciding who does and does not get to have a Facebook page or what you can or cannot say on Facebook, there's something wrong with you. He's an evil, and there's still a couple hours, universe, to give me another birthday present. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying.
What a day.
He's an absolute, that's a level of evil I can't even find words for. So yeah, that's not the kind of person I want deciding who gets to talk and who doesn't. I mean, maybe it's just me.
Yep.
I don't know.
Did we
But
mention
that's-
Adelson?
Huh?
Did we mention Adelson? The news?
Oh,
that was
wait,
birthday
no, I don't
present.
know if we did. Hey, God gave
Happy
Misty a birthday
birthday
present this
to
morning. Did you guys know, like, Misty's got a direct line to the divine
God.
because Sheldon Adelson stepped on a fucking
You're
rainbow.
welcome. You're welcome.
I don't even
everybody.
know if I believe it. We were talking about this before the stream. With
Yeah.
Sheldon Adelson, he's one of those people that, like, his evil's so concentrated, the only way that he can die is to, like, vomit his soul into another vessel to continue
Sheldon
on.
Adelson
Yeah,
is
what's up,
basically a
Adelson?
collection of Zionist semi-sentient liver spots. But
Exactly.
I don't give a fuck. He's dead.
Well, that his current incarnation as that meat husk has been removed, but there are plenty of people that learned from his evil ways. He is one of
And look, this cuts the money out of any sort of keeping UC Global out of Julian's appeal.
in
Yeah,
a way.
that's true.
This cut, I mean, unless his wife picks it up, and I from what I've understood and read about his wife, she's even more of like an ultra Zionist than he was. But
Either
I
way,
don't,
he's a shitheel and he's dead, and it was my birthday. And thank
it's
you,
a
universe.
beautiful thing. It is, dude.
Yes.
It is.
I don't feel even a tiny bit bad.
Lori
saying
was gonna teach
so
me
don't
how to
come
use
for me.
Postmate
Don't come
so
for
I
me.
could send you cupcakes, but
Okay. I'll take cupcakes. I like cupcakes. But yeah, don't come for me with your "we shouldn't speak ill of the dead." Fuck you. He was a war criminal. I got no problem saying that I'm happy he's dead.
I
So
have a
don't
Slow
bother me
News
with your
Day
bullshit.
video called "Speak Ill of the Dead," and it's about John McCain after he,
Fuck him
he
too.
fucking finally
Don't feel
died.
bad about it.
And then the goddamn lightning hit the Washington Monument, and you know they reanimated him. You know he's just wandering around in the bowels of the Senate right now, just like looking for an
Running into
unsuspecting
stuff.
aid. And when he feasts enough, he'll rise again. This is something that we need to be concerned about, people.
He's like,
I
the
agree.
staff is regenerating.
So, do you still have time to keep hanging out with us for a little bit, Emma, or do you have to
I-
bounce?
I think I have a bit more time.
Because I
Okay.
want to, because
We have like news.
well, the whole of DC from our perspective, right, was really cool because we got to be involved with Force the Vote and then Free Assange and then Hijack the Stop the Steal events, right? So I wanted to let you give your perspective of kind of that whole DC thing, because I don't know at what point you guys stayed or even if you want to talk about when you stayed or left, but you were involved in a lot of our events as well as an organizer for Force the Vote. So I feel like you have a very interesting perspective on the ground.
Yeah. So going through the stuff that happened in DC before the 6th, because the 6th actually like changes a little bit of what I think about what happened to the other days after seeing the police responding to everything. But Force the Vote was interesting because it was planned very quickly. It was planned mostly by Jackson Hinkle, who came from across the country. You know, there was lots of criticism of what was happening, why it was happening, how big it was. But it's hard, like any organizer knows, barring what happened on Sunday, because that was or Wednesday, because that was big, but it's generally hard to get people to come out for anything that actually matters. It's been hard for a long time. It's a lot harder when you're in a global pandemic and people are afraid to fly on airplanes, don't want to go anywhere, whatever. And when people are like suffering so much, so many people are unemployed, dealing with all kinds of things. So traveling to other states is not possible for everybody. So there were all kinds of criticisms about the size of the crowds for Force the Vote. It was nice to see that on the second day, the amount of people was bigger. It had gained a little bit of steam. I was really happy that the main person that organized it, Jackson, wanted to continue and still have an action on Monday because the vote was supposed to have already happened at that point. We kind of expected what was going to happen from the vote and weren't overly surprised. But I personally feel like it helped show that this wasn't theater. This wasn't just a show. This wasn't just for fun. We're still here and we're still mad and we still care about this, even though you guys didn't listen to us and didn't do what we were wanting you to do. We're still mad. And I think being there on Monday really showed that that was real, it was.
It would have been really easy for him to throw in the towel too, because he got shit on Twitter. Like the whole event got shit on. I wasn't there the first day. I didn't get there until what, Sunday. No, I got there Saturday night. Wait, is that right? I don't even know. know.
Yeah, you got there Saturday night.
Yeah.
Okay. All those days kind of blur together.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there for the first day, and I mean, I saw some shit on Twitter where they were like dragging it hard, and I'm like, what the hell are people talking about? There are people like in the street doing action and you're shitting on them. What is wrong with you?
And Jackson is a fantastic organizer, right? For being able to pull that many people, both big names like people who have sway as well as just people to show up there. But on top of that, I was enamored, I guess, as someone who is an organizer, who is a police liaison, at just the daftness of the way he handled.
Daft means something that is not.
That's not what you meant.
Yeah.
His cunning at handling and moving, I guess, the police officers and kind of predicting that their response. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because that's all on camera. That was live streamed. That police response. Yeah. And no one talks about that literally the day before in relation to what we saw happen.
Yes.
They had a horseshoe of 50 cops around 40 people.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it form up. Andrew and I were, because I was still being bad and smoking cigarettes, but I haven't done that since I've been back to DC. But been back from DC. I haven't bought a pack of smokes. Anywho.
Way to go. I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
It's DC, dude. I'm a stress case there. Man,
oh my God.
Like, why I need a grown up?
Steve was my grown up. How funny is that? It's the best. It's only because he's older than me.
I am like indie media's therapist, though.
Yeah,
like it's like I'm a lot of people's grown up.
Hey, I try not to. I don't come at you with my problems because I know everybody else does. Usually, it's like sleepy. Sometimes
people just call me to work shit out, man. It's fucking hilarious. I love it, dude. I must, otherwise I wouldn't pick up the fucking phone.
Police response.
But no, I mean it was such a disproportionate response from the police, and for the like day one, dude, when they tried to run up on Franco, and Franco's like, yeah, no, that's your guy, dude, white dude over there, and then like didn't miss
white dude. Always point at the white dude.
Yeah,
always point at the white dude.
Yeah. But yeah, like I would point at the white. I don't count as the white dude at those protests. I don't. I'm not. I would point at like Pasta. I'd be like, you talk to him.
Pasta's a good white dude to point at. But I think that if you just want to compare the police reaction to force the vote to January 6th, and then you want to come at me and tell me that was a coup, come on.
I know.
Come on, 40. Yeah. 50 cops for 40 people.
Mhm.
And then like cops opening the door and taking selfies with people who are having a coup. Fuck
Mhm.
off.
It's
I don't have any
amazing that we experienced that just days before this, because we, you know, like since May when George Floyd was killed, I've experienced a lot with the police here in Minnesota and some other places, and I have
For
lots
real.
of opinions about police and National Guard and stuff like that. But what we experienced those 3 days of Force the Vote was the Capitol Police. So that's kind of a unique thing that like these are the exact same people. These aren't just DC police and Capitol Police. These are the Capitol Police that like even on a day that was a weekend, nobody was working in the buildings. Like there was no foot traffic around. The weather wasn't great. There wasn't vehicle traffic also because we're in a pandemic. So there's like no one's outside. It's weird. And like it was a small group on that first day. And right away on the first day, they were like, you got to get off the steps of this building or we're going to arrest all of you. And that was an even smaller group.
And that was just their office building. It wasn't even the actual like House of Congress. That was the Rayburn office building.
When we went there in September, right? I don't know if you remember, Steve, but it was our very first thing, like the day before any of the other protests happened.
Yeah.
We went and we pulled the permit to go and literally sit outside the Capitol building with a megaphone and play documentaries for a couple hours. Like just amplify it so that way they were in session. You could hear it inside. We had people like thumbs up, like, yeah, right? There was more cops there watching us, 3 people with 1 megaphone and a cell phone, right? Than there was anywhere within like 100 meters of the Capitol. Like all of the police formed a perimeter around all the chicanery. We literally parked and got and put on our costumes to go role play with everyone else, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, in front of a group of like Secret Service getting like SWAT gear, like putting on their costumes, right? Standing around, and I'm just like this is ridiculous.
It's a fucking cartoon.
Angle literally had to devise a brilliant strategy to distract, move, and corral police officers, right? To be able to give 3 to 5 minute speeches potentially on a staircase.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
While their ideologically affiliated political candidates are inside talking.
No, he's literally playing hide the organizer with the cops.
Yeah.
And
And it was brilliant and it was great.
Well, and it was also like everybody that was speaking that day
person was talking about. But instead of saying, wait, why was there more cops around Jackson Hinkle than the Capitol building? And there was only 40 of them because they talk shit about the size of the protest. But they won't talk about the cops at the protest.
Right? Yeah, no, with cops, there were 100 people at those events, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Maybe they learned a little something while they were standing there. You can hope, right?
Yeah, maybe they was a practice run. They were like, something big's coming, so we gotta.
They've already got health care though. They do. They get to be the authoritarian boot of the state, and their kid can get braces.
Yeah,
like
that's nice.
So their kid can get braces. Yeah. In some cases, I have talked to people. I live fairly close to a Lockheed Martin facility. Yeah, I've talked to the people who work there. And like when they get really drunk, they'll let shit out that they're not supposed to. But before that, like I've been like, yo, dude, you know that you're facilitating war crimes for the health insurance, right? Like, has that ever like sunk in? And I swear to God, dude, I talked to a guy who believed that drones always and only hit their intended target and caused minimal collateral damage, and thought that we had an almost 100% success rate with our drones, and almost threw me off, like wanted to throw me off his property because this was a guy who I was working for at the time. wanted to throw me off his property because I was like, no, dude, it's like 90% we hit civilian targets.
Right.
No, I helped design those. Okay, well, you go look that up.
Good for you, dude.
And then I hear
Oh,
like a shit, you know, like from his den about 5 minutes later. He came out and he was like, I had no idea.
Can you imagine the Lockheed Martin's like training videos?
The culture of just fucking
Well, think
Like
about like the saturated 2.5 hour
No,
training courses
like,
you have to go
the
through.
guy telling you about like this cat's driving me nuts. By the way, this is Julian, everybody.
Oh.
But yeah, like, can you imagine those training videos where they're like explaining like your insurance and your benefits to you, and like it's like some guy in khakis, but like he helps blow people up across. You know, it's fun, good stuff.
Mhm.
Those like cheery training videos.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun week. I think that would be. I would watch those just for the entertainment, because like I worked at a cemetery, right, and those videos were wonderful. So I can just imagine what like the sales for the Lockheed Martin departments are. It would be great.
Memorial Day sale. Those would be fun commercials.
Right?
Shop at Lockheed Martin, where every day is a white sale.
So I think we could probably pivot into the couple articles that we have to cover.
Yeah, if we don't do it now, I'm gonna get distracted and never get to it.
Yeah. So do we want to start with the CNN one that the judge kind of just pulled out of nowhere in the middle of court?
You start with whatever you
Have
want.
you ever heard, Emma, of a court case where in the like the reading of the verdict or the decision or whatever, the judge cited CNN?
I haven't. I can't say I have heard the details of a ton of court cases, but I have not heard of that.
Can you imagine? Okay, can you just imagine a court case?
Yeah.
Citing CNN.
That's not one that I would want to be involved in, unless it was because CNN did
Was
something
awful.
wrong and was getting in trouble for it.
That's not.
Yeah, I know.
That's not.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what one you're talking about. That is.
Yeah, so in court, right, when the judge is reading off her no extradition verdict, she decides to pull in, let me screen share this article. Do you have it, Josh? Or do you want me to screen share?
I didn't have a working document until like 10 minutes before the show.
So this is a CNN exclusive, so you know it has to be good. Security reports how Assange turned the embassy into a command post for election meddling, right? This came out July 15th, 2019. Last time it was updated. I don't really want to read through it too much because it's pretty ridiculous. But I'll go through kind of just the first lead up into it here. New documents obtained exclusively by CNN reveal that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange received in-person deliveries, potentially of hacked materials related to the 2016 US election during a series of suspicious meetings in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. So just that, right? The reason we know why CNN would know this is because of UC Global, if they actually know it at all. Because it was during that time period that the CIA's spying ramped up. So she's literally citing an article that most likely, no? Am I wrong on that, Steve?
No, UC the thing UC Global didn't start working for the CIA until after Lenin Moreno had been installed, which was in 2017.
17. Okay. I apologize about that. But the documents build on the possibility raised by special counsel Robert Mueller in his Russian meddling report that couriers brought hacked files to Assange at the embassy. The surveillance reports also describe how Assange turned the embassy into a command center and orchestrated a series of damaging disclosures that rocked the 2016 presidential campaign in the United States. Right? So this article here is basically saying this man that was in solitary confinement used the embassy as some kind of command center, right? We know by the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture that he was being involuntarily detained, right? That if you were,
He was being, it's not a command center. He was being spied on the whole time he was there. Everything that he did was spied on. Everything. And not just him, anybody who came to visit him. His family, his friends, journalists, lawyers, you name it. They went through their phones. They went through their briefcases, anything that they could do. I mean, they had reports, little files on everybody. Like, this is... I mean, a command center. My ass. Shut the fuck up. Like, he was there. He was there because he couldn't leave. Like, because you guys are assholes. So let's not. It's just the way that they spin it. It pisses me off. It was no command center. Ridiculous.
Right, and it's tied to a debunked report that when you read it, it has more if-thens than like fucking programming language. Like, it's terrible. And like the full unredacted report's out there, and you can read it, and it literally says like, "Yeah, we don't know shit." Like, that's the best we got. Is we don't know what the fuck happened in 2016.
Oh, I hate everything.
But
Yeah.
so the reason, right, that's significant is because that's some information that the judge cites literally out of nowhere. Like, yeah, no, we would release him, but like, look at this thing that CNN said.
Mm-hmm. That's like doubly frustrating as like for working in independent media, what we have to deal with fact checks from all kinds of places, and people just being so hypercritical of independent media and their sources and their facts, and to see outlets like CNN sometimes publish things that are completely wrong or in something like this, and then have it work its way into a court case and to get used in that way is like,
that's terrifying.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. That CNN is being cited in a court case. Like, that should fuck you up all by itself. And the fact that like all of this shit is happening in his court case and nobody talks about any of it, because it's not just one thing. It's not just that, oh, they cited a CNN article in the judge's decision. It's, you know, that he was spied on. It's that he was illegally or arbitrarily detained in the first place. It's that he's being held right now on remand. That when he asked for compassionate release because of COVID, because he has an underlying lung condition that makes him very vulnerable, they said that they couldn't release him because they hadn't charged him with anything. What the fuck kind of bass ackwardsness is that? Like, if you haven't charged him with anything, he should be the first person you can let go. That makes no sense. You're holding him without charge. Like, there's no logic. And they say it out loud. And it's like nobody's paying attention.
But if we let him go, then he might run away from the thing we haven't charged him with.
Right. And, you know, we're in the middle of a lockdown. The whole world's locked down. But Julian Assange is going to escape from like the most surveilled city on planet Earth. It's fucking ridiculous. And it just goes on and on. Like I said, it's not just one thing. There's dozens. I could ramble about this for an hour just all on its own. There are dozens of examples of the way that this case is lunacy. Like, just madness. None of it makes sense. There's like a multitude of issues that on their own should be enough to have the entire case thrown out. And here we are.
That's one of the biggest things, is that so many things that are said are exposing all of the wrong that's been done, but that's not the point. That's not the focus. Like, citing CNN here and this whole CNN article should make everyone be like, oh my God, he was surveilled to this extent. This is horrible. How did this happen? Who was doing this? Why? Like, instead, it's used as evidence for things. And even just what happened the other day, saying that like we brought this up earlier, that he's a suicide risk. The point should be that you're now saying that he's at risk of suicide because of what you've done to him. So the focus should be that, like, you just admitted that
you've
you
broken him down.
Yes. But that's not what
that's not the conversation at all.
Everything involved in this case is the wrong conversation.
And he has autism. Can we talk about this? Because we had this conversation in a meeting the other day. Anytime that we're dealing with somebody's medical history, I get a little bit nervous about talking about it because it feels a bit exploitative. Like, if that were me, I wouldn't want somebody talking about like what my therapist has to say, or what my, general practitioner has to say. That's private stuff, and so I feel bad, especially given that it's Julian, somebody that I admire, and that sucks. But at the same time, we need to save his life. And so, we've talked about this. The autism thing is a problem, you guys. The autistic community is already at elevated risk for suicide. That's just real life. And it's by a significant amount. So the fact that he is autistic, and then you add to that the fact that he's being held in a unbelievably oppressive environment, and with very little hope for his future, and he can't speak to his family on a regular basis. He can't meet with his lawyers on a regular basis. I don't even know if he's even gotten the judgment yet from January.
Oh yeah,
6th.
he hadn't as of the other day.
He hadn't gotten it yet. How's he supposed to prepare for the appeal if they don't even give him the legal papers he needs to do it? And so you add all of these things on top of the fact that he's autistic, and fam, it's not good. Like, I don't mean to use autism as like some kind of an excuse or a crutch or a weapon or whatever you want to call it, but that's real life. Like, this is not good. And the fact that they're keeping him in prison while it's under appeal, when he could just be on house arrest and with his family, where he can try to recover some. It's unbelievably horrible. It's an atrocious attack on his humanity. And we need to talk about it, because, as bad as I feel about, bringing these sort of things up publicly, because it really does feel kind of gross, but we have to save his life. Like, and if we can use that to make people understand what he's going through, or at least elevate people's awareness of what he's going through, then we need to do that. I think that's just the way I feel about it. You're welcome to disagree with me, but it's not good. It's really not good. Sorry, rant over.
No, I mean, there's so many different communities that should be speaking out for Julian. And 10 years ago, there would have been. That's why this didn't happen 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, you didn't have a decade of smears against him. You had the work that he had done and his organization did. And I'm not against, we've talked about it, trying to get the autism community behind supporting Julian. But even then, where do you start? What group in the autism community?
Follow me on Twitter, and I will start. I have lots of people we can tweet at. So follow me on Twitter, and we'll start. That'll be my new spam list, I guess. We can do that. We can totally do that. And I think that's a community that will be very supportive. That's my hope anyway. Because this, it honestly, it needs to be said, because you guys know I have a kid with autism, and when I try to think about her, because it's natural, I think, to do that. When I think about her, trying to deal, and granted, she's only 12, almost 13, but still thinking of her in that sort of oppressive environment with all of her sensory issues, honestly, it nearly breaks me. Thinking about it nearly breaks me. So I can't think about it too much. And so, I think that's something that we really need to talk about, because he's not in a good place, you guys, and it's only going to get worse, and we don't have a lot of time left, I don't think. So it's just we got to throw everything on the table, leave it all on the field. Let's go. When
you try to explain what happened during even just during the witness testimony hearings, that round, compared to what the order against extradition and the denial of bail say, during the hearing, the argument was Belmarsh is such a shithole, and British prisons in general are so much more rancid and horrible and disgusting that anyone with suicidal ideation would be much better off in the veritable country clubs that are U.S. prisons.
They have arts and crafts,
color TVs.
Bingo!
Woo-hoo!
Bingo!
They have spaghetti.
No, Julie. There's nothing set in stone in this Kronberg indictment about making sure that he would be under special administrative measures. So we're going to ignore that, and that's not going to be part of our argument. In fact, don't bring it up, because we'll run away from it like Mike Pence does gay thoughts. That it's not going to happen. And in the decision, specifically, Baratzer says, because of the fact that U.S. prison conditions are so bad and because he would be under special administrative measures, I have to rule against this. Like, everything about it is contradictory. The U.S. changed their line of attack multiple times just throughout the witness testimony, because every time they tried to read from the indictment that the assistant attorney general from the U.S. Department of Justice and however many freaking lawyers and, summoned lesser demons and fucking half-trained monkeys and shit they put on this thing, it got shot to shit every single time. So they had to try a different dance step over and over and over, and basically rested on the fact of like, okay, well, we just really, really don't like this guy.
Yeah. And watching them shuffle their focus so many times in court was really, I mean, at the time it was both frustrating, but also really entertaining because, I mean, there were multiple times where they just didn't make any sense whatsoever. The dude got laughed at in court, and that is still going to be one of my absolute favorite moments of all time. And I wish I could have been there to see it live, because that would have been awesome. But
and it happened multiple times. There was literally a point where the judge laughed at him.
The judge even laughed. His own witness called him he got bodied in court by his own witness. And one of my favorite tweets from one of those days where he got embarrassed was a lawyer on Twitter right after the one incident took place said that, as an attorney, I can tell you the one thing you never want to hear a witness ask or say is, "I'm really glad that you asked that." And that's so true. If you're a lawyer, you really don't want somebody that you're trying to, get tangled up to say, "Oh, I'm really glad you asked that question," because you're about to get destroyed. And that's what happened. And it was so fun to watch. Like, I get a little bit of joy out of watching these absolute nightmares of human beings, embarrass themselves. It makes me happy. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
So in Julian's extradition ruling, the judge said a lot of terrible shit in the no extradition actual court hearing, right? In the description down below, you can get the link to the actual document that she released, like her verdict. And in there, she leaves out a lot of the actual stuff that she says in court. Like, we went through it, and there's not really a section where she says what she agrees with, right? Because that's not really how these papers work. But in laying out her argument in court, the transcripts and the discussion in the courtroom show a very different picture than what her document shows, because she only talks about the reasons that extradition is barred, which is like the medical purposes, things like that, and then gives an almost 100-page background about the case, but doesn't specifically say, these are the arguments that I accept from the U.S. court. So we dug into it, and it's still worth reading. It's still worth looking at. But we have an article here by Consortium News that lays out much better than her own words what she said in court about the U.S.'s legal arguments. Do one of you guys want to pick it up? Can you see it okay?
Is that Mercurius or whatever his name is? The dude from the Duran?
This is the Consortium News piece. I'm not
sure. No, I was asking who wrote it. Whoa.
Jonathan Cook.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like Jonathan Cook.
Yeah. So let me get back down here. Sorry to murder everyone's eyes.
I'll go.
Okay.
So picking up at where journalism is espionage.
Significantly, Judge Baratzer backed all the Trump administration's main legal arguments for extradition, even though they were comprehensively demolished by Assange's lawyers and all of the witnesses who did the actual demolishing. Baratzer accepted the U.S. government's dangerous new definition of investigative journalism as espionage and implied that Assange had broken Britain's draconian Official Secrets Act and exposing government war crimes. She agreed that the 2007 extradition treaty applies in Assange's case, ignoring the treaty's actual words that exempt political cases like his. She has thereby opened the door for other journalists to be seized in their home countries and renditioned to the U.S. for embarrassing Washington. Thank you, Jonathan Cook, for using the proper word for what that is. Bereitzer accepted that, and that's, by the way, dude, that's action for Assange and the people that watch the vigils here and the people that were listening to Victor Dadaj, who yelled at us on camera for saying the word extradition and not rendition or broad daylight kidnapping, which we did for the better part of the year after that. Bereitzer accepted that protecting sources in the digital age, as Assange did for whistleblower Chelsea Manning, an essential obligation on journalists in a free society, now amounts to criminal hacking. She trashed free speech and press freedom rights, saying they did not provide unfettered discretion by Mr. Assange to decide what he's going to publish. She appeared to approve of the ample evidence showing that U.S. spied on Assange inside the Ecuadorian embassy, both in violation of international law and his client-lawyer privilege, a breach of his most fundamental legal rights that alone should have halted proceedings. Hey, it's Kevin Gustola.
Kevin! Everybody follow Kevin, Shadowproof.
It's true.
And this is where the actual CNN article gets pulled in, where they talk about that.
Bereitzer argued.
Are you doing okay? You need me to jump in? Or are you okay?
Oh, I don't. How much more of this are we going through? I don't
know.
Well, there's this one, and then there's vilification continues, and then that's it.
I'll close this part out. Jesus, Andre, what are you doing?
What the hell just happened, man? Simmer down.
I was excited.
Wow. Gear down, big shifter. Bereitzer argued that Assange would receive a fair trial in the U.S., even though it was almost certain to take place in the Eastern District of Virginia, where the major U.S. security and intelligence services are headquartered. Any jury there would be dominated by U.S. security personnel and their families who would have no sympathy for Assange, which is why we had a whole like jury nullification thing planned, which we still may end up having to do, if not for Julian Assange, for somebody else. It's not like this shit goes away. So as we celebrate this ruling for Assange, we must also loudly denounce it as an attack on press freedom, as an attack on our hard-won collective freedoms, and as an attack on our efforts to hold the US and UK establishments accountable for riding roughshod over the values, principles, and laws they themselves profess to uphold. Even as we are offered with one hand a small prize in Assange's current legal victory, the establishment's other hand seizes much more from us. Well worded, Jonathan Cook.
Yeah, I really like Jonathan Cook. He does great work on the Assange case. So big shout out to him. You know, there's not very many journalists even covering it, and he's doing a great job. I like to give shout outs to all of.
Come on the vigil, Jonathan. You sound like sound like you're watching. You do. You do.
Check. Hold on. Maybe not.
But yeah, no, I really can't tell you how happy it makes me to see a handful of journalists pick up calling it a rendition.
Yes, necessary. Oh, he doesn't follow me. I'm not as cool as I thought I was. Sorry.
Follow Misty, Jonathan Cook. It's your birthday.
So as someone that does a lot of like dissident journalism, Emma, which I just consider journalism, like the on the ground pointing the camera and looking at what is there. What are your thoughts on the way this case kind of pans out, with you not maybe necessarily working with classified information, but exposing things that are against the national interest?
Yeah. It's really frustrating how few people are paying attention to it because of that, because there are most people, even if they're totally like mainstream, they have like one cause that they care about that is not something that's like in the mainstream normally. Like around here after Standing Rock, a lot of people woke up to that kind of thing, and that's not like what you find in the mainstream media, like the right way. so people have turned for certain topics to alternative options and voices sometimes. And so everybody really has like at least one cause that they really care about, that they would like the information about sometimes. And so few people realize how important this case is to letting that kind of information
I say it all the time. It doesn't matter what issue you fight for.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what you want. If you want healthcare, too bad. If you want in the wars, too bad. If you want anything, literally anything, you're not going to be able to get it unless you have a free press. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
You have to be able to get your message out, to talk to people, to, show people what you want and how you get there and all of those things. You can't, and we're already very kind of pigeonholed into our little echo chambers on social media, and they have complete control over what is allowed to be covered. I mean, shit, look at how quickly they shut down the Joe Biden Ukraine Burisma story. I mean, that was shut down on social media. And that's only going to get
down
worse.
by Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Those people are absolute. I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk about them. They're hacks.
But unfortunately, not everybody knows that, so they think they're getting their information.
I know.
Advocacy depends on access to as wide an audience as possible.
Absolutely.
You never know where you're going to draw your supporters from. Never. Which is why you can't start out, blatantly hating a group of people just because some outlet told you to hate them. Unless they're the national security state, in which case,
you can hate them.
Go ahead.
But I mean, even then, we do remind the people who are tasked with monitoring this live stream, Kevin's friends.
Hi.
It is now is a fantastic time to become a whistleblower. Get yourself a lawyer. That's what you do first. That's what every whistleblower who's been on this show has said. Get a lawyer first. And then go shed some light, because we know that, Kevin, if you've been with us for the entire 80 weeks, there's no way, but if you have, then I assume that at this point you're at least partially radicalized. And
we'll have your back. We'll have your back.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
will crowdfund for your legal fees. We will scream your name from the mountaintops.
There are organizations in place already that will help you with all of that, and we will point them. We don't have the fundraising mechanism to provide legal fees for you, but we know organizations that do. We can't offer you protections, but there are organizations that can, and we will point them to you. Come on, guys.
More whistleblowers.
You can do that. Yeah. Like this sticker says. You see the whistle? It says, if you are a member of the national security apparatus, blow me.
Yes, please. For the love of humanity. Seriously.
I still need to get that to you, Misty, in sweatshirt form. I do.
What? Oh, yes. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I do love a funny shirt. I do. It's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
I just got another shirt that says free speech extremist. So that's my new favorite.
Be careful.
No, dude. I mean, that's you what now?
PSYOP. Because now I'm an op.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm an op, a Nazi, a fascist, a secret infiltrator, an alt-right grifter. I may be forgetting something. That's just in the last 5 days.
I'm so sad. No one ever attacks me anymore.
Dude, you're
anymore. You got some brutal, unnecessary shit.
I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, you did. You got your fair share of shit, dude.
No, I did. It makes me sad.
You're just not on Twitter. And
Twitter, it just makes me, being trolled makes me laugh. Because that's what it is. It's just bad.
What do the idiots that attack you come at you with, Emma?
Oh, I know.
The weird
are you a fake Nazi yet?
Yeah, MRG, are you a Nazi?
Oh,
So right now, it's weird because I do a lot of different things for like different kinds of audiences. So a lot of people don't know like the different kinds of things that I do. So I can get labeled as one thing and then labeled as something completely contradictory from someone else for a totally
Oh yeah, I
different
get that
reason.
too.
But like recently, some of the Stop the Steal type folks locally, they've been organizing rallies at the Minnesota governor's residence on Saturdays, and then there's been another group that has been there to oppose them that has been referred to as Antifa. I know a lot of the people from just like the rallies that have happened all summer after George Floyd. So I don't know if they're like if like that's the right word, but it's become this like Proud Boys versus Antifa thing. And
Right.
because I've photographed everything that's been happening since the George Floyd stuff, the people on the right connect me with that group. And while I sympathize with a lot, and a lot of these people are people that I know, they're my friends, whatever, I'm a photojournalist and I document what's happening. But I'm now like totally unwelcome at any of the things that are organized by the people on the right. While back in March, when they started planning reopen protests, I went out to those at the governor's residence, at the Minnesota State Capitol. I documented all of those things because I document what's happening and I don't give you my opinion. When I'm like live streaming it, I'm like, this is where we are. This is who's here. This is why I think they're here. Look, like a live stream, you can't really spin too much because you're just showing what's happening live, which is why I like them. But I tried to go to one of their things at the governor's residence and was like super quickly singled out as being like an infiltrator. They're like, you're Antifa. They damaged our phone camera. They were like pushing and yelling at us. And then like a week or two ago, one of them made a bunch of like graphics and little videos of some of the media that covers this stuff, but then also some of the protesters, and started calling us Antifa terrorists and telling people to, if you see them, call the police. Familiarize yourself with these people. They're terrorists, which is not cool. Like they're like, these people are burning your buildings. They're blah, 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 blah. Like all these things that I've never done. And that doesn't feel very good. And an ironic thing is that like some of us reported these things like on Facebook and on social media. Like, I think this is against the community guidelines or standards because they're calling us terrorists. That has our pictures and our names, and maybe that's not good. And like repeatedly, Facebook is like, no, that doesn't go against our community guidelines. That's fine. And then you can like review it again where it like goes in front of a person and they're like, we had a human look at this and they said it doesn't go against our standards. We're like, okay, this is like dangerous potentially. So I've got like that side of things, but then on Twitter, I'm like, stop censoring people, and people are like, fascist.
Yeah,
I don't know. Everybody's brains are just like absolutely broken right now, and nobody knows what any of these words mean. Like
oh my God,
fascism right now is trying to like stop fascism. Like,
so we're
I'm a free speech activist, you fuckwads. How can I be a fascist?
This vigil goes out on the MCSC network. And thanks to Nico for that. He just debated.
Oh my God, yeah.
I can't remember the name of her show, but there was a moment. No, there was a moment where she told him like, well, you don't know what fascism is. And he's like, okay. Tell me. And she proceeded to talk about it being like a series of events and this other thing and some other shit. And like none of it was anywhere near what could even be conceived of as a definition of fascism. And she had this look on her face like she knew she was right. And
I think that's just her
dangerous.
face. I think that's what her face. I think she just thinks she's always
Simplest defined as the merger of
Smugner.
political
Are we
and
going with
Smugner.
Smugner?
Yeah, that's exactly
That was
what it is.
Smugner. It was. And I do you have the exact I can look it up here real quick. It's
the
a
merger of
I have a
political
shirt.
and economic power. That is fascism. And then there are things
when
that come
hubris and
out of
ignorance combine to create blindness.
Perfection. That's fucking perfection. Oh, but you guys, I'm so fascist. You already know. My kid was singing that to me the other day. It's a joke in my house now. It's funny.
Isn't
It's
that
so
sad?
ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Mhm,
But
like-
seriously, let's not give her any airtime. She's not even worth it, you guys. Honestly.
But so I love everybody. I want to do one more article, and this is just to run through some bullet points. Mohammed Almazi laid this out, and he does a super good job.
Yeah,
Do
he
you
does.
mind if I get going before
you're
you go to the next one? I have to.
Oh
get
yeah,
my
you're
kids
tell
to
everybody where they
bed.
can find you real quick before
Hold
we
on, let
jump
me
in.
cover screen share. Hold on.
Yeah,
Boop.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
And thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter by my it's like by myself, but it's an elf. So by myself without that S.
By my elf.
By my elf. Yeah.
And
that's a good place
your
to find.
website's in the description if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah.
You
My
take fantastic pictures, by the way. They're
Yeah, you do.
phenomenal.
Seriously,
yeah,
great
if
job.
you guys want to check out my website, Sron.com. I guess the link is in the YouTube description and description on the other platforms too.
Yeah,
That
I
there
got
are
Glory
photos of
throw
the
it
things
in the chat.
in DC.
Glory, throw it in the chat, would you?
Yeah,
so good
there's
at that.
photos of all of you. So your audience might like to see this.
That's why we like them.
Yeah.
It was nice meeting you.
Yeah. But thank you for having me on. It was fun to talk to you guys and more because we didn't really talk much in DC. I have a hard time talking to people in person. I apologize for not talking to you guys much when we were there in DC. I'm totally an introvert and unless I have a reason to talk to someone, it's hard. I don't usually.
I'm unbelievably awkward, so I totally feel you. It's okay.
But now that we've met here more, we can hang out next
different.
time we're in DC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to get kids in bed, so
I
gotta
feel
go.
you. Okay, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
Have a great night. That was cool.
Yeah, thanks, Glory, for throwing that in the chat. You're the bestest. Okay, Andrew, did you want to go through the other one, the bullet points?
Yeah.
You want me to read it, or are you good?
No, you
Did
can read it.
Tedros
I'm
call
cool.
you too? Is that what that was?
Yeah, that's what that was.
Okay.
I forgot to mute myself.
Okay, so this is just kind of a bullet point rundown of the court decision. So the first one is Assange's alleged conduct went above and beyond that of a responsible journalist, and if proven, his actions should not be protected by the right to freedom of speech and press, which are themselves not absolute rights. Really, those are not absolute rights. So gross. Okay, anyway, Assange's alleged actions put the lives of U.S. government sources and informants at risk, which has been thoroughly debunked. They've admitted to it in court. Assange could potentially raise arguments that his disclosures cause no harm at trial. Alleged surveillance of Assange lawyer-client conversations is either unproven or immaterial. Bullshit. There is no evidence that the prosecution of Assange is politically motivated, which is the most... Are you kidding me? It's the most ridiculous thing. I don't even know what to say about that one. I honestly don't. That's so insane that she's trying to pretend like that's a real thing, that it's not politically motivated. Are you kidding me? It oozes political motivation. I mean, I don't know how you can deny it. How can you even try to pretend like this is not political? Of course it is.
Well, I mean, she's lying. I don't really know how else to put it. At this point and this is an argument, I guess, that the defense has made, that a couple other people get to sit at the WikiLeaks cool kids table made, that once appeals happen, it's in front of a panel of judges that aren't trying to make their careers off this case.
Yeah.
And she is. Her immediate supervisor has had a husband and son exposed in WikiLeaks. It's a very personal case for Arbuthnot. So Baratzer's career is going to ride on whether or not she makes Arbuthnot happy.
Yeah, this case is a cesspool of corruption.
Which,
There are
by
so
the way,
many
is
shady-
fucking political.
Yes. Unbelievably political. Unbelievable. Like
Even
There is
according
any-
to the fucking Queen of England, she literally is like,
Yes.
I don't weigh in political cases.
Yeah,
And
I
the judge
can't
is like,
involve
this isn't
myself. This is
political.
political.
The Queen Mum.
The Queen, yeah. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? Seriously, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I get why Baratzer is saying that, because she is a completely spineless pool of, empire. But anybody who even takes like a cursory look at this case, that believes that it's not political, there's something wrong with your brain. You should get that checked out, because that's just ridiculous. It's one of the most absurd things I've heard in like the past year, and we're talking about 2020. So that's saying something. It's ridiculous.
Mhm.
But the fact that an Australian journalist was yanked out of an Ecuadorian embassy by British cops at the behest of the United States government is a whole other fucking issue. So, like I said, none of this case makes any sense. None of it.
To come
None of
after
it.
our ability to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And
this-
the fact that his outlet printed the truth 100% of the time.
Yeah. Never had to make a retraction, ever. If that's not worth saving and fighting for and defending, I honestly don't know what is. People complain about the media all the time and about how they're always wrong and it's propaganda and all that. Okay, well, here you go. You have a news organization and a publisher that has never gotten it wrong. Fucking fight for that, would ya? I mean, you maybe put your money where your mouth is. Maybe, show up for once and stop just bitching about it and do something about it. Like this is journalism. This is it. There's a quote by Julian that I'll butcher, but it's, that journalism, as much as possible, should be a science. It should be a science. And we've said it before. He doesn't give you conjecture or opinion. It's source documentation. Here you go. You read this and decide what you make of it. That's invaluable. And nobody wants to fight for it. It's really sad. It's sad. It just depresses me. It's pretty terrible. But that's where we're at. That's where we are. Go team.
But credit to us, right? On some real shit. Like us as a global free Assange community, right? Like all of the little protests that happened all over the world, like the country of Germany standing up and being like, this is wrong. The Mexican president, the Brazilian former president standing up and saying, this is fucking wrong. Right? All of that was enough to at least for the time push back against the pending dystopia that was this case. Like there has been a threshold reach for free speech at this point that is hopefully enough, right? It was enough to save Julian from the clutches of the US, at least for now. Like that battle's not even over. But
I am seeing Assange stuff in mainstream sources now. Like ABC had an article discussing I think they were talking about how it didn't make sense that they didn't give him bail. So mainstream media is finding it more difficult to ignore this now, I think. So that's good. You're right. There has been progress. There's been a shit ton of progress. It's just really depressing that it's something we have to yell so loudly about. I honestly didn't.
100,000 people every Saturday need to show up at Belmarsh.
Yeah. And I don't know why that's not happening. And I get that there's been a decade-long smear campaign, and I get that that's been very effective, but it's still really depressing.
I mean, that's why back 2 years ago, Taylor and I started all this, is because like we showed up and we were like, whoa, there's no like U.S. ground movement for this at all. And instead of being the person that organizes all of it, we decided to be the person that like radicalized that column of information, right? Like the people that care about this issue care about it enough to generally turn out for events. So that was something that we're like, hey, be your event, like be that person. And like it's spread, right? Like it's something that you see reflected in that idea of being your protest is pretty much reflected throughout everybody's talk at this point, like this decentralized political free movement. So I think we're on, even just as like a global human community, the verge of so much more than what we could have thought we were capable of mustering 5 years ago. So I don't know. I have hope for the future, I guess.
I love your positivity. I need
like
it.
I was talking with one of my friends in DC, and I just see the world so much differently than everybody else. Like it's.
Well, I need people like that in my life because I am unbelievably cynical. So sometimes dude, I need people to like drag me out of my misery. You know what I mean? So kudos to you.
My freaking playlist at work today was like, I'm going to see if you'll feel better by playing really depressing music.
I do that. I do that all the time.
And then, well, I threw on like a song, and it wasn't even a depressing one, but then the playlist took an incredibly dark turn. And like once I get to work and I set my shit down, I'm like away from it. So it's usually until I take a break where I can go change it. By the time I got to the hillbilly version of "Fuck the Police," so it was all right. But yeah, there for a minute, it was coming for me. It's coming for me.
I feel you.
So I'm putting the link to Kevin Gastola's live tweet coverage of the court case, where the no extradition ruling came out. This isn't the bail hearing. I'll try to find the link to that one. But I just want everyone to just read through, because it's not that long. I get some tweets, retweet them, send them out, let the world know. All these different arguments and stuff that the judge put forward. So I'm dropping that link in all the YouTube chats right now.
By the way, while there's people here and hanging out, we would really like an assist for Slow News Day on some Slow News Day out of context clips.
Please, not of me.
The more of Misty, the better.
It should just be Misty out of context.
The dumbest things on camera because I forget I'm on camera. And so like I'll like say like I love Nazis, and you know somebody's gonna clip that up eventually, and it's gonna come back to bite me on the ass. And you know I've mentally prepared myself for it. I did it to myself, but I do that shit all the time because you know I hate speaking in public. But these aren't bad because I feel like I'm just talking to my friends Andrew and Steve, and occasionally Sleepy, and some person that's cool and that I get to learn from. And so I kind of forget it. And it's gonna be
they're cool, but we're just Andrew and
well,
Misty.
You guys are cool, but like you're like a regular cool, like around me all the time cool. So like random people that I don't get to talk to all the time that I can learn new things from. That's pretty cool.
Since you've become a celebrity.
You're such a grifter, Misty. It's terrible.
Fame has changed you.
I'm a diva.
Are we good to close out?
Yes.
Yeah, Josh has been tapping his foot for 5 minutes.
Right.
Josh is hungry. Sleepy's hungry.
So I would like to thank everybody for watching. I would like to thank Emma for joining us, everybody in the chat for hanging out. Don't forget to follow us on Rockfin. We are rockfin.com/A4A. There's also a Slow News Day show, Rockfin, as well. I recommend doing the subscription thingy to Steve's, but he'll talk more about that. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that made DC possible, that was able to get us there and then keep us there. You can follow us on Twitter at @action_4 Assange. I have tons of call to actions on the website. They're older. It's all still relevant. It's all still existing in the world. You can still reach out to the entire UK Parliament or the entire Australian Parliament. Tons of emails for the Department of Justice. Get ambitious, get creative. There's so much information on there that no matter who you want to contact, there's a thing about it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I have another show called Facts on the Ground with Jesse Zerwell. We have a couple cool things we're working on. So if you want to go over there and subscribe, that would be cool. Yeah, just thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are amazing. And everybody that helped us get to DC. I really felt good. Like that trip did so much just for like my own personal like mental health. So yeah, big thanks for that. That was a good time. It was fun to be out there, even though the weather kind of sucked for a little bit of it. It was still good to get out there and, you know, hang out with like-minded people and make some noise. That was good. And we got a lot accomplished. We raised a lot of chaos while we were there, or we tried to. We tried to be as loud as we could. Andrew's very good with a megaphone, so I think it was pretty effective. We got a lot of horn honking. When Kendra even got hit on by a cop. So what do you know? Yeah, but I think that's it. Thanks, guys.
My name's Steve Foykinen. I have a show called Slow News Day, which you should be watching on the Rockfin, because that's where I will be when YouTube yanks my channel, because we talk about things that YouTube would prefer us not talk about. I have a co-host on that show named Glory Jones, and she's better than your co-host. She is. Not you guys. You guys know that, but
She is.
Yeah. But I'm talking about them.
She's better than us too. Come on.
Them.
God knows she's better than you.
You're not wrong. You're not. You're not. Remember me when you're famous. This Thursday, look at me, I'm kind of doing promo. Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, Whitney Webb is back on the program. We're now well into double digits for Whitney Webb appearances, because ask her, it's her favorite show to do. And you'll find out why if you haven't already seen those on Thursday. And then Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, MMA legend and co-host of Mixed Martial Mindset, John Fitch, is on the program. Looking forward to that. Sunday, Richard Gage, the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, will be on the program talking about his documentary 7, which is incredible. And I'm probably going to see it for the third time ahead of this show. What else? Jared Beck's coming back on, Rockfin. So the reason I mentioned Rockfin, no, Rockfin's fantastic. Please go make your free account. That is where we are primarily going to be after we get our YouTube channel yanked. I have a website, slownewsdayshow.com. If you're inclined, endorse the channel on Rockfin. It's $9.99 a month, and then you get access to everybody's premium content. So it's like a Netflix for content creators, and it's you know, at least not owned by the Obamas. So I guess it's not like a Netflix for content creators, but yeah. At any rate, this is how I promote my shit. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for making DC possible. I'm gonna echo what Misty said. It's fantastic to just I'll be able to get together and sort of enjoy the culmination of, at that point, like 18 straight months of trying to do something, anything to shift this fucking pile of tyranny headed right towards us, and I really feel like we did that. It was their mental health check, like I think right when we all needed it, and we're ready to do it again. And yeah, thank you guys. Thanks to Emma, Sron, I hope I got that right. DJ Elf, thank you for the super chat. I had a handful of super chats tonight. Thank you guys so very much for doing that. DJ Elf is a freaking star, dude. Nothing but love for that guy. Get at me, Ed. Let's do an episode of your show and talk about ferreting up Nick Brown out of the bushes. Which is
I think I'm the only picture of that in the whole world.
Still one of the funniest things. It all just happened the way that it was supposed to. I love you guys. We'll see you soon. Good luck to us all.